Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Scream Scene. I am Jody Dean. Tonight, I have one of the producers from Terrifier here with me. He also has another film called Stream, which I just seen the trailer for that the other day. Looks great. One thing about this guy is I can tell from pictures, videos, the little bit I went down the rabbit hole. It seems like he really enjoys what he's doing, and I can't wait to talk to him about it because I love the film game. I love horror. So, Michael, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm great. I'm honored to be on your show and happy to talk about all things film. You are right. That's nice that it comes across that enjoying what I'm doing. I really am. I feel honored and blessed to be making movies. It's something I always wanted to do as a child, and to be able to fulfill that dream and just do what I love is just a blessing. So thank you for having me.
Man, my pleasure, and thank you so much for coming on today. I've been eyeballing you for a while, and I said I want to get this guy on the pod. You work really closely, it looks like, with another guy that I've just got complete admiration for. A very inspiring gentleman by the name of Phil Falcone.
Yeah, Phil is the best. Phil's one of my closest friends and even mentors at this point, and he's really one of the best, one of the most genuine people you can come across.
Such a nice guy, man. True pleasure. A couple interviews with him, but yeah, so I was just looking at everything, man, and I love seeing people that love what they're doing. And I think in a business like the film industry, I understand the money is very inspirational, but there's some people that it's just that, and then they lose track of, hey, man, I love filmmaking. I love seeing what we're putting on the screen here, and I get the sense, man, that you really do love this.
I do. I enjoy it very much so. And if we didn't need to make money to live, I would still be doing it. You know what I mean? It's a passion of mine. And specifically, I mean, I love all genres. I grew up with obviously horror, and I'm a horror fan. So to be a horror fan making horror movies is really cool. But I love comedies. I just love the process and movies in general. So to be able to do this for a living really is just an honor and a pleasure. And it's because of our fan base, which is just so amazing, is why I'm able to continue doing that. So just blessed.
I love it, man. I say that all the time too. If I wasn't doing what I'm doing, I'd still be doing this because it really is. There's nothing like especially films. They take a long time when we're talking features. Back in the day when it was like shorts and little ideas, it wasn't such a big deal. But when you're spending 6 months of your life putting something together, then you see it on the screen. Or even if it doesn't make the theaters, there's something so rewarding about that. I mean, you've been in a situation now where your pictures have been in movie theaters. Like, how life-changing is that?
It's to even hear you say it to this day is just crazy. You know what I mean? It's just bizarre, and that hasn't changed, and I hope that never changes because it's just so incredible that we have a movie that's in the theaters that people are interested in flooding to go see. I remember when Terrifier 2 hit the theaters. First of all, we never thought we were going to get theaters ever. That was never like a thing. It was just like, oh, when it comes out on streaming, because you know that you're trying to make the best movie that you possibly can, but like coming out theatrically was always just something that we never thought that we were going to obtain, at least at this stage in our career. And fortunately with Terrifier, it ended up getting a little bit of, I think it was like a 3-day run, and then it expanded and expanded and expanded. And I remember texting back and forth with Damien Leone, the director of Terrifier, for anybody who doesn't know that, just saying, this is wild, what is happening? And this group text between all of us that were involved, and every day it was just like mind-blowing. And I mean, I still smile to this day, and now we have Stream coming out in theaters. So it's cool that it's kind of becoming a little bit of the norm with us, but it's something we definitely don't take for granted at all. It's still so super cool.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely, dude. I am still waiting for that moment. Haven't seen that yet. So it's very inspirational to hear that. And it lets you know that, like, look, you could be in the independent vein and then just magic can happen out of nowhere.
I
Um,
hope, and that's what we hope, we did with Terrifier. We're seeing a lot more indie films now getting the attention put on them. And I don't know if the studios are liking that too much. They seem to be pushing back a little bit, but that's we're very proud of. Like, obviously, it's great to have your film in theaters and stuff, but if one thing that can be taken away from it is for the masses to be able to get more indie filmmakers a shot at being seen by the masses, to have a shot of going into theaters, because it was something that wasn't, this wasn't the norm to happen, and now
Right.
much more open. Like, In a Violent Nature has come out, and the Winnie the Pooh stuff, and it's like there seem to be more open to these movies coming out in theaters and having small theatrical runs and kind of seeing where it goes. So that's something I'm most proud of.
Yeah, no, well, same here. I went and seen it in a Violent Nature in theaters. I went and seen all the one in Terrifier 1 and 2. And at this point, like, anytime I see your guys' name attached to anything, I'm just going, because I do know that you care about putting a good product together. I've often had people, like, they'll look at like something and they'll say, "Oh, that looks like a B movie." I'm like, that's what I'm going for, but I'm trying to make good B movies.
Right.
And with horror, in my opinion, I remember sitting back when Terrifier 2 was coming to theaters, and I said, I want it to happen, but I didn't think it would happen, because how do you get a rating on it? Seems unrateable.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the most, I love films like that. Those are my favorite films, the films that are so crazy that, like, we probably ain't going to get a rating on this, guys, but you guys made it work, and you ended up there. And next thing you know, they're saying that people are hurling all over the place.
Yeah, I remember. So it's funny. I didn't even know it was possible to get into theaters without going through that hoop of getting the rating, and all. I didn't know that was a thing. I guess not many people did, because now it seems to be happening, which is awesome. Because I don't think you should be restricted from, getting a film in just because it's a little exploitative or it goes far and beyond. Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously they'll have the warning, which is what the theaters were doing.
Right.
Way a certain age group doesn't get in to see it, but just because it does something crazy like that, at least now it's possible to get it into the theaters and see where it goes from there. To answer your question, I remember I was with Damien. It was that first weekend. We actually were at a hibachi restaurant, myself, my brother Jason, who's another producer on Terrifier 2, and Damien, and we were just having a few drinks, just kind of low key celebrating amongst ourselves, like, hey, we got this movie in the theaters and it's pretty cool. People are going to see it. And it wasn't extended yet. And then all of a sudden at that dinner, the Damien's phone goes off, my phone goes off, my brother Jay's phone. It was like this boom, 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 boom. And it was all these people texting the articles and the dings from the social media about that post that went viral about somebody passing out and throwing up in the theaters. And then it was just from there snowballing. And then the next morning, it was like everything changed. You know what I mean? Like, it was now, we kind of broke the barrier of our initial fan base, which kind of got us those initial numbers and kind of put it somewhat on the map. And now it was kind of entering the more general population of, like, people now interested to go see it. And I'll tell you, we couldn't have staged something better. Like, that's how real and organic that was. You know what I mean? Right. A part of me is like, oh, how cool would it have been to have come up with something like that? But at the same token, it's like, that was all just organic and natural. And it just, goes to show we tried to make a shockingly cool and fun movie, and we're just happy that people got what we were doing.
I am too, man. What's happening with the Terrifier franchise, being a filmmaker, has been so inspiring to see that. Well, first off, we talk about this a lot on the podcast. There's no other fan base like the horror fan base. There's not people, I mean, maybe occasionally it's a really rare thing to see somebody that's a hardcore rom-com fan going and getting tattoos on them. They're not collecting these action figures like the horror fans are. It's the action figures, the posters, the tattoos. They're living and breathing a lifestyle. They're creating social media platforms strictly about what you are creating.
It's the only genre that I guess is similar is like the comic book, the Comic Cons and things like that with the superheroes. Like, that's
true
that I see with horror. The only difference, though, is I think horror fans, because I'm one of them, so I could say this and attest to this, is that we're much more passionate, I think, than the comic book world. Like, even though people love the comic books and they go see the superhero movies, I think especially with the films, they kind of just leave it there. They don't into, like, other than the collectible stuff with the actual comic books. They don't bring the films, I think, into their everyday lives, where horror fans really, we do, you know what I mean, which something we talk, live, breathe. There's the conventions, you know what I mean, and there's not just the one Comic-Con. There are many multiple horror conventions all over the country, and all over the world now. It's like, it's just amazing, and it's something that I'm really super proud to be a part of, as a fan, you know what I mean. And now
Yeah.
it's just to kind of do it on the flip side, and then get to visit with other fellow fans, and we talk, to hear about Terrifier and everything is great. You know what I mean? We still have that imposter syndrome. Like, I see Halloween Curse of Michael Myers poster behind you there, and it's like, to me, the real horror icon, the Freddy Kruegers and the Jasons and all that. So when people put art in that category, it's mind blowing. It's surreal. So when we're at these conventions, like, I talk with them about other movies, you know what I mean? Because that's what I'm a fan of. So.
That's so awesome, man. And that makes me want to just step back for a second here and back up. All right. So, long time, lifetime horror fan, and where? So, all right. For anybody that doesn't know, where are you from? What got you into filmmaking? Was it being a horror fan and saying, "Hey, I want to learn how to do that"? When did all this start? How did it come together? How are you here right now?
So a lifelong horror fan, but like I said, wasn't just horror. It was like, anything really films. I was a big fan of comedies growing up as well. I wanted to be a filmmaker really at a young age. Like, I can remember at like 4 or 5 years old and wondering how it was done, wanting to make movies. I didn't know what, I guess, part of it. I was really young, but I just knew that's what I wanted to do, whether it was acting or I would follow along. I would memorize the lines, watching Dick Van Dyke stuff, dancing along with it. I was shown my first horror film by my mother. She's a huge horror fan. And my grandfather, I could remember watching the original 1978 Halloween. And, it kind of spiraled from there. Leprechaun is a huge, I don't know if you can see, I got a lot of Leprechaun figures in the back.
That is so cool, man. I don't meet a lot of hardcore Leprechaun fans. I know they're out there, but I haven't got to meet them. That is so cool.
Yeah, I got a bunch of Leprechaun. I got the Funkos. I got a bunch of Leprechaun stuff back there. I got the original 1993. They were giving these out in the theaters as the promotional little rubber toy. So, yeah, so it started with Leprechaun and Halloween, and eventually got into Nightmare on Elm Street and Stephen King's It. But it was from my mom and my grandfather showing me these. It kind of became a tradition of, especially around Halloween, to watch all horror stuff. I grew up loving Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon and Goosebumps. And, so it was really cultivated at an early age. And I would steal my mom's video camera and try to make films, with my brothers and the neighborhood kids and stuff, and try to figure out how to do that. And I could never understand the editing things, because it was like the computers in the early infancy days. So I would take my grandmother my typewriter and type it up on a paper towel roll and film the paper towel roll and pull it so the credits would roll.
Wow, that is so gnarly, dude. I have never heard that before. That is creative as shit.
So that was at a young age, and it's funny, like, we started a tradition with my grandfather. Was every year on Halloween we would do a Halloween display. And we started off with a ghost face. We built it, and we would put it out every year, and then we would add and grow. And now my brother and myself continue this tradition to this day, where our house is like a huge, we got monster quality museum, life-size figures that we have out, and the parents come and the kids come every year to see it. It's this big display. We give out alcohol to the parents. We give candy out to the kids. We have a fire pit. So Halloween horror has been a huge part of my life growing up, and it's just something that I just grew up around.
That is so cool, man. It makes everything cooler when you hear about somebody's journey to where they've gotten to where they've just found this massive success. Not that there wasn't, I'm sure there's probably other successes along the way, but breaking into the film industry without studios, or the biggest thing I've ever seen is people don't have the connections. They don't know somebody, or they don't realize it's not as hard as you think. Like, especially nowadays, because equipment you can get cameras that can do bang up jobs for very inexpensive. The softwares are available. It's easier to become a filmmaker now more than ever. However, I don't think a lot of people realize that. And along the way, it's scary.
It is. And the one thing that's always I found that was very helpful is you got to have a good team around you. You got to surround yourself with people that you motivate each other, because if you're doing it alone, it could get very discouraging. I always use the analogy that it's like a big tree, like I'm talking, a couple 100-year-old tree, big, thick trunk. And you just keep hacking away at it with an axe. It seems impossible. It seems never going to happen. But I promise you keep hacking away, you keep at it, you keep dedicated, that tree will come down. And that's just like breaking into the filmmaking industry. And you're right, you can make movies a lot easier. You can shoot movies on, and they're doing them on the iPhones and different, lenses attachments and stuff. And it looks good. Hard part nowadays, I find, is not making the film as much as getting it seen by the masses, because now there's just so much content. Whereas back in the day, it was harder to make a movie, but if you did, somehow it was being seen. It was getting in theaters, people, just because there was just so much less out there and available. So that's the hardest thing, is just, and there's good films that like I'll discover years later and say, how did I not know about this? It's just because there's so much out there. It's just hard to find.
Yeah, no, you're right. You said something that I actually talk about quite often with friends, and it's that, the oversaturation that we're seeing now, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, right? So if it's your film that you want to be seen, it's a bad thing, but it's a good thing for the horror lovers out there. I mean, you can go on any platform, Tubi, Screambox, whatever, Prime. You can just go through all of them, and there is just it seems like there's a new horror film, maybe 2 or 3 coming out every single day.
Yeah. And that, as a fan, it's fantastic. I love it. I search every night. Most of the time it's horror stuff, which is funny. I got my wife loving horror movies now. So it's like every night I'm looking and trying to find, and you find different things, and I'm like, do I watch this tonight? Do I watch this tonight? I favorite them. So yeah, as a genre lover, as a movie lover, it's great. As a filmmaker, it's like, okay, how do you kind of break through all of that to at least get people to just get eyes on it, you know what I mean? Because then once they get eyes on it, it's up to them to decide if they like it or not, you know what I mean? Like, you can only, as a filmmaker, make the best movie possible that you can do, you know what I mean? Because film is very subjective too. Like, you can make something that you think is amazing and it's trash to some people. You can make something that you think is trash and other people love. That's kind of what's exciting about it too. But as a filmmaker, it's just, see, how do you take that next step to get people to notice you or notice it?
Yeah, and that's a huge step. We see it over and over. There's like this thing that's happened maybe this has been happening longer than a few years, but over the last few years, I think it's very noticeable, especially to filmmakers and film fans and horror people, that we're kind of in this pocket where I've noticed almost just a flyer or a poster can hit the internet and it can start a wildfire. And it's almost like, with some films, especially In a Violent Nature, like that came out of nowhere. At first, it was very vaguely mentioned, and suddenly it was like, oh, this is going to be in theaters now.
I remember texting it to Damien like a while back, and I said, hey, have you heard of this movie? Because I was like, I just didn't, I didn't know where it came from. I was just like, oh, this is, and they were comparing the kills, and I haven't seen it yet, but they were comparing some of the kills, like they're crazy, like Terrifier kills. And then all of a sudden I saw it got theaters, and I'm like, oh wow. And then all of a sudden I heard people were passing out as well, and it was like, I'm like, oh, this is cool, that there's another film that people are trying to to push the boundaries and push the limits and make something unique and different. I think the concept also is really cool, you know what I mean, which is, if anybody doesn't know, it's following from the point of view of the killer. I think that's cool. That's something that I've never seen done before. So I think already off the bat, take away the kills, whether they're cool or whatever, that's alone awesome, you know what I mean, because I've never seen that done before.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that's, we're probably at a point with the, I don't want to say overkill, because again, I love seeing new horrors. I am such a fan of shitty horror films. And I don't really mean they're shitty, but to most people, they'll be sitting in a room with me and they'll say, man, this is terrible. We're 5 minutes in, turn it. And I'm like, no, this is great. The creativity of somebody that's working with what they got.
Yeah.
Even you could probably like throw something at this. Even let's say you had $600,000 to make a film, depending on where you're at with the caliber of that film and now the new boundary you have to push, you still have to dive into that creative pocket. Because we're talking, dude, for a long time there, it was absurd to think that a horror film could be made with less than $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now
No,
they're being made less than 100,000.
yeah, no, you're right. And it's funny just to touch upon. We used to have this thing. We used to call it bad horror movie night. We used to go to Blockbuster, me and a bunch of my friends. We'd pick the coolest, craziest covers, that would have the VHSs and then eventually the Blu-rays and stuff, and say, "Oh, this looks cool. This looks cool." We'd get like 5 or 6 of them, and over the next night or two, we'd watch, get together and watch them, and we would have laughs. We would, scream at the TV. And there's some of the best memories that I had growing up and being a teenager and stuff. So I get the whole bad horror movie, you know what I mean? Because it's about, do they evoke experiences and emotions, and you could have a lot of fun with them. And those are, again, there's B movies that are B movies, but they're good. You know what I mean? And there's good for different reasons. And again, those are some of the most creative films. It's when you are strapped for cash, or look, you probably never have enough money if you're if you're a filmmaker. You always want more. But when you really are strapped for cash and you're making them for under 100,000 or under 600,000, under $1 million, whatever it is, that's where you get the most creative, because you got to figure out a way to get it done. Some of the best things, even in Terrifier, they can be the first one to tell you, like, we're up against the clock, we got no time left, and we got to brainstorm or figure something out that would have never happened had we had not had the pressure of the certain circumstances that were happening. And all of a sudden it ended up being so super cool and amazing. It's like, wow, if we would have had all the money, we would have done it the other way, and it would have, maybe not been as cool. So, I think that adds a lot to it. And I also think being in the horror world is a backdoor into the industry as well for a lot of people. That's why a lot of people get their start, because they can be creative and they don't have that studio control over them.
Mm-hmm.
They can kind of do what they want, take chances, take risks and see what happens. And if it don't work, then you try again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was very well said. It does seem like it's the easiest pocket to be in to get started in making films. One of the funnest, and it's really the only pocket I think you're going to find like possibly a cult following in the early stages of your film career. You create a character that just has something unique or original, and there's a good chance that you're on a shuttle, that's going to go to the moon.
That's what it is. And it goes back to what you're saying before, which is that it's just the horror fans in general. They're very supportive. They're diehard. They're there. They are, the expectations also, they understand the budgets, and the budgets doesn't bother them. If it's a low budget film, they're not going to steer away. Whereas you have an indie film that is a drama, or especially action movies. If you hear an action movies for $200,000, you're going to say, oh, that's probably trash. I'm not even going to look at it. And sadly, a lot of times they don't look that great, because they're trying to be something bigger than they are. Whereas horror, we know what we are, and we kind of just rock and roll with it, and we try to just make it really cool and do what we can within those budget ranges. And that's why I think you can be successful in the horror world, because you have an audience that's going to give you a chance, where in a lot of these other audiences for these other films won't give you a chance, and you have a chance to pop and explode because they just love the genre so much.
Yeah, no, dude, that is awesome. And hearing you speak about this, man, is inspirational, because I think like although I know this, my film friends, like, these are like conversations like, dude, this is so tied to like what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. But when it's coming from somebody that has now seen the theaters, has their name tied to big projects, has great stream, we're going to talk about that. We're going to get deep into that one. But like these films that you're doing now, I didn't see a lot of the stuff before, like in the beginning stages. So I don't know. We'll have to talk to that. Like, is there something I should check out or not? But I'll just say that I feel like you're in that pocket now where like there's just a caliber you're going to step up and you're going to put out there. It still probably always comes back to is the buzz going to push this, or is this going to push this, right? Because there's two ways that it happens. Like, it's like a hit song. You put out a song and it either goes on its own, or you got to pay the radio promoters to promote the fucker, right? So like, and that's the truth.
It's 100% true. It's either you got the money to market it and get it out there and push it. And that's why a lot of, I'll use other films and other genres that get these big openings and the millions of people see it, and it's like the movie's not that good. It's just because they have the money and they have the capital behind it. Unfortunately, for us, we never had the money. You know what I mean? The money's always been tight, and you can attest to this. It's tough to raise funds, and so we just got lucky of people dug what we were doing, and it ended up catching fire that way. And I'm a firm believer in, if you put everything you can into the movie, you know what I mean? And I'm just saying, try your best to make it the best it can be for where you are in that stage of your career. You know what I mean? And just put the passion. Don't phone things in. Really, just be passionate about it. And if you are, whether it pops or not, I think that's where you need to be most proud. And that's kind of how I've always, you know what I mean, I've looked at things. Speaking of stuff that we've done before, we did a movie called Abnormal Attraction. There's a small fan base that likes this movie. This is actually my brother. He produced Terrifier. He's one of the cops.
I've gotta see that, dude. I don't know why I'm picking up like a wrong term vibe, and I'm probably wrong, but there's
so it's got some. It's a horror comedy, and it stars. There's a poster behind me that I'm proud of. You could see maybe this girl here.
Oh my god, dude, that is a badass poster.
It's a low budget comedy, but it's a horror comedy. More comedy than horror, though. It's bizarro. We wanted to make something when I first started out in my career. I said, you know what? I want to do something that probably won't catch fire with the masses, but I want to do something I want to do. I want to have fun. I want to be batshit crazy, balls to the wall. So we did this monster comedy. We actually got Malcolm McDowell in it, Gilbert Gottfried, Tyler Mane, Leslie Easterbrook, Bruce Davison. Ron Jeremy's got a cameo.
For an early on film, dude, that's pretty freaking crazy.
Because it was a crazy, never kind of done before script. It's called Abnormal Attraction. It's basically a movie about people who have an abnormal attraction to mythical fairy tale creatures and monsters, and they go to a support group for it, like Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'll tell you, it was an early film, and it's very campy. It's more early 90s than 80s, but there is some 80s stuff in there. It's got some heart. There's like racial undertone stuff. So it's got meaning and morality to it, like most fairy tale books as kids when you read. I'll promise you this, if you take a shot for every dick joke, you'll be hammered probably by act 2.
I gotta see the movie, dude. I gotta see this now.
It's fun, but it's funny. Like Terrifier fans, it's cool. They've been catching on to it, and they enjoy it. And they like it, but it's so totally not Terrifier at all. It's a bizarro movie, but I'm proud of it because it was, at the time, it was really hard to do, and it was just getting started. We had like no money at all to do it, but we got these people in the industry to come on board because the script was so crazy and like, oh, this could be fun. And at the time, it was the best. We poured our heart and soul into it. We had a blast making the film. You could find it probably on Amazon Prime and it's on Vudu for a while. But there's a small fan base that really enjoys the film. And every so often at a convention that we're at, they'll come up and say, I love Abnormal Attraction. And I think it's so cool. I take these with me now because there's a few. This is the Blu-ray. And you can see some stuff. So cool. There. So we have Frankenstein, our Jewish Frankenstein. We call him Frank Stein, and he's been persecuted by his people. And, there's this whole gag with it. And it's played by Tom Hanks's brother, Jimmy Hanks.
Dude, that's I'm happy that like I mentioned that and you mentioned that because that's just it. Like sometimes, especially when it comes to movies and nowadays with the overkill, and again, I hate to use the word overkill. I'm happy about overkill, but it's when you have somebody that you trust, a horror friend or fan, them vouching for something, man, really counts for so much. Like, people turning you on to things. There's so much. You have to have somebody just say, dude, you got to check out Abnormal Attraction. This movie's, freaking, it's bizarre, but like there's something about it that's just so appealing. And seeing that film and what you've done now with some these other films, I guess they've, like Terrifier, like it's bigger, right? Do you see where like the only thing that stopped that movie from being bigger or being at the
for sure. Every film is we try, even from Terrifier 2 to Stream, and Stream, we just got off of Terrifier 3. And, you kind of learn and you see and you go and, I feel like if you're not growing as an artist or as a filmmaker, and even business sense wise, and if you're not like learning something new each time, or at the very least, you can't go backwards. There's always a level of of expectation now and pressure from, you know, just yourself that you want to make sure that you're delivering for your audience, because now we're building an audience and we have audience members that are like tuning in, and like we don't want to let them down. You don't want to let yourself down. But yeah, there is. And I've seen certain things with that film. I think one is money was a thing because it was super low budget. And I think we were very ambitious with this project, like super ambitious. And it was probably the wrong movie to make at the wrong time, but I'm proud that we did it. And I'm proud that we got it done. And like I said, I knew we poured our heart and soul into the film, really had a blast doing it. And I still watch the movie and I'm entertained, you know, but I think also is very niche. Like very, I knew this. I said, you know, I want to make something that's different, unique. And from the get-go, I says, you know, it could become a culty, classic-y kind of thing, but it's got to find its audience. And I think over time now, because of our success with Terrifier and Stream and other projects, I think now people are finding it more, which is also really cool because they kind of look at your resume. Like even today, you're saying, "Oh, I don't know some of your older stuff," and then we talk about it, and then you know your audience or you will go back and check it out. Up to you to decide whether you like it or not. But it's cool that like there's still a way for it to catch or for people to just enjoy it, and that's why I always find it interesting. Like when fans come up, I did a Halloween fan film years ago, and somebody came up to me and asked me to sign something. You think it's Terrifier, right? You just thinking he's holding the thing and he hands it. And I didn't even like really process it because there was so much going on. I'm about to sign my name and put Will the Exterminator, and then it came into focus. I'm like, wait a minute, this is a printed out poster of the fan movie that we did that like had a really cool you know, hits on YouTube a while back. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, yeah, he's like, I have this on Blu-ray and I made a copy and now it's in with my Halloween collection. And so that was cool.
That is so awesome, man, and inspiring, because I think that, you know, the two people that will fall into this podcast specifically are people that are horror lovers, number one, but also the filmmakers, and well, then you got the film fans, right? So you got all these people that get to go down the rabbit hole and revisit some of these things and possibly remake them a hit. I've heard of situations like that before where and not just from this podcast, I'm not blowing up like that, but I'm saying like when people go down that rabbit hole, it does something to the algorithm where it causes something to resurface. I've seen this with YouTube. Like I'll post a video, it'll do very poorly, like on my big channel, and then like a year later, all of a sudden it'll just get 50,000 views out of nowhere. It's the same like system with like movies in some way. The Running Up That Hill song, that was not that big back in the day.
Talking about this with my wife like 2 days ago because it came on and it was like most like diehard, I guess 80s people knew that song and like
right,
but a lot of people didn't, and all of a sudden it's like boom, it's like, what's this new song? It's retro, it's 80s. Like this song is
insane,
so
bro.
Dude, we did I don't know if you've seen it or not. We did a parody on YouTube and it recently caught fire again. And we did this, it's called Halloween 60. And it was Michael Myers as an old man. And it was when 2018 was coming out. We did a shot-for-shot reenactment of the trailer. And we actually made a mask that was from the current mold of William Shatner's face now. Because anybody knows Halloween, it was, you know, a Kirk mask that they made look like Michael Myers, what it is today. So we did that, and it's receding in the back. It's bald. And that thing went viral. It was like awesome. And like even Malika Cod and those guys over at Trancas, Ryan Freeman, who's the one that did it with David Gordon Green, the comedian actor, he was the writer on the thing, Danny McBride, they saw it and they thought it was really funny. And they were like, oh, you remind, David Gordon Green told me, he's like, you remind me of like my buddies, like when we were in college, like writing and doing spoofs and funny stuff. So that was cool. And then recently, like a year or so ago, it like caught fire again. And it's just like, you know, you never know how, like I guess the algorithms or somebody finds something and it just goes.
It's amazing, man. And there is a system out there. So that's why, like, you know, when I talk inspiration, I talk about it a lot. I try and have people on here that truly like, it's not like it's just like, oh man, this person, you know, like sounds cool. Like I'm looking at these people, I'm following them and I'm like, dude, people need to hear these stories and see this because, I remember being in my 20s, almost throwing in the towel on the film thing. And I even did go away for a while. I'm like, oh, let's go away, get some money, man. And we'll come back to it because it is something that you got to have a little bit of coin for. but we are in a pocket right now to where if all you had was your iPhone, if you had an iPhone 14, Pro Max, I got one, I've shot a film on it, looks beautiful. But we are in a pocket to where if you didn't have anything, you could do something. But you got to have a little something there, and I think that those people, this inspires to keep going with it. Like, okay, let me put out what I can now, but no, if I keep getting better and better, even if I don't have a lot, I can make it look like I spent a lot. I
Yep.
do that. I'd send you a film that I made. I just finished on 10 grand. Looks fucking incredible, dude. Incredible. I can't even believe it. Like, I couldn't have made this film in my 20s, though. I just kept progressing, and
It
you
is.
get to a point.
That's what we were saying before. It's like each film that you do, you progress and you get better and you learn and you adapt and you change and you adjust and whatever. And I think that's the biggest thing as filmmakers. Like, think about this. If you just made a movie and everything was perfect, right? Then what's the point of making another one at that point? You're always
Yeah.
striving for more. It's always on to the next one. I just had this conversation literally with Damien like 3 nights ago, and we were talking. He's like, "Oh, you excited with Stream coming out?" And says, "Dude, I'm already hoping for Stream 2 because there's so many things I would do different." He's like,
Wow.
he goes, man, he's like, but he gets it, dude. He's like, we just finished Terrifier 3, and he's already thinking. He's in the midst of editing it. You know what I mean? And it's like no time to think, but he's still thinking about the next project, and that's just, I think, unfortunately, or fortunately for filmmakers or actors or anybody in the entertainment business, it's always like the next best thing. You're never satisfied. You're always hungry. You're always trying to just do better and do more and constantly evolve and learn. So that's always interesting. My wife's like, "Oh, you're are you happy?" No, never.
Well, the process is is very addictive. Again, it goes back to when you love it and you're passionate about it. Same thing here, bro. Anytime I finish something, I'm thinking about the next thing. But when you're talking about these features, it's like you almost can't jump to the next thing so quickly because there's like a run there. You have to make sure that film gets seen, and that's the hardest thing for filmmakers is their film to get seen. If you don't get selected in a film festival and the distribution company's not coming to you saying, "Hey, this needs to go to theaters. We're gonna make it happen," Cap. Like what do you do?
Tough. And it's like, it really is like, I think this is a cliche people say, it's like it's like a kid, your movie. And it's like, it's just born, it's the idea, it's conceived, then it's born, and that's when you got the script, and then you're shooting it, and you're kind of like nurturing it and growing it up, and then the movie's got to go out to the world. It's grown up. It's go off on your own, and it's this whole process of just living with it for so long. And it's like, we wrote Stream in 2016. Think about that. 2016, we wrote it. And it was like, and then it was going through different drafts, and then you're trying to raise the money, and then finally you're shooting it, or you're gonna shoot it, and then you're also holding off because like this Terrifier thing happens, and then, and then all of a sudden that pops, and it's like, okay, we're shooting Terrifier 2, and now we're shooting Stream, but I don't want Stream to come out before that because let's get Terrifier out. And it's just like, and that's also part of the planning too. It's just like, okay. So it's this whole thing that you're living with. And that's why, like, now with Stream, I'm so excited to just get it out to the world for everybody to see it and hopefully enjoy it and take something away from it because we've worked so hard. I've lived with it for so long. And now I'm at the point where, okay, I've done everything I could as a filmmaker. You get to that point where you're like, you've done everything you could. You've checked all boxes, you've dotted the I's, you've crossed the T's. There's nothing more you can do. You have to say that to yourself because as a filmmaker, we're always going to want to go in and tweak and change. And at some point, you just have to let it go. So now it's time. The movie's coming out into the world and it's got to do its thing. It's a big boy or girl now, and it's just got to go. But to your point, it's like, yeah, if you don't get it into theaters, if you don't get it selected at a film festival or whatever, it's like, how do you get it out there? And what I found, and this is particularly to the horror world, is that's why I love hitting the convention circuit so much. And I was doing this before being guests at some of these bigger ones. Like I was going as a vendor and just grassroots, meeting with fellow horror fans, traveling the country, talking with people that are just as excited and passionate as I am and recommend, hey, check this film out. I'll trade you my film for your film, whatever, any which way we could get it out there. And just get somebody. Because again, all you need is that one person, the two people to kind of talk about it and generate. It could go. You know what I mean? You got to kind of just hustle and just, if you're not going to promote yourself, you know what I mean? How can you expect anybody else to do that?
Very, very true, man. Yeah, that's some wise stuff, and I hope that people, they think about that because I do see a lot of discouragement with filmmakers about that, and actually, I am nowhere in your neck of the woods, man, and I see it all the time. Like I ran into this guy and he was telling me, man, he's like, no matter what I'm doing, it's not getting seen. And then you talk about, well, what are you doing? And it's like the answer's always right there in front of you. It just seems like you got to be built different. So you got to rebuild yourself different, man. Especially nowadays age, you shouldn't, there's not a lot of excuses because social media, that wasn't a thing to push the movies back in the 90s or really in the early 2000s. So like now, even though social media may be overkill, oversaturated, it's still the number one free way to
Huge.
push yourself.
It's so huge. And again, it's about being consistent with it. It's about, finding different ways to showcase different things to get people interested. You know what I mean? And what you really got to do is kind of, I think it's being truthful to yourself when you make your film. You got to know what film it is you're making. You got to understand it. You got to understand its audience. That's why they talk about target audience. Who's your target audience, right? But I try to just bring it back to what do I want to see? What am I interested in? You know what I mean? Because if I'm at least doing something that would capture my mind, at least I'm being truthful, and at the same token, I'm doing something that, like, I would say, okay, cool, I would find this cool. I'm sure there are other people out there that are like me. We're all, we all have our different tastes and our different things, but there's a lot. Obviously, look at the horror world. There's so many fans. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of similarities there. And then again, it's just being truthful about it. There's something that you can see where someone is just was it insincere, ingenuine,
Right.
and it kind of could be a turnoff. But if you really believe in what you're selling or what you're showing and you're passionate about it, even if it's not great, you know what I mean? People are going to support you. You know what I mean? Because they just like you as a person. They like your drive. They like your passion. They see how much you're into it and your belief, and they just get excited about it. That's why we ran the Indiegogo campaign for Stream, because it was one of two things. It was one, which was we needed the funds because we shot when we wrote the movie when COVID wasn't a thing, and then all of a sudden COVID's a thing, and we go into production, and you need PPE and HEPA filters and these new regulations, and it like ate the entire budget. It like destroyed our post-production budget. So now it's like we need to somehow raise funds for this, and we says, you know what? Let's bring it to the fan base. Let's bring it to people that are like us that we can tell our story to, get them excited about, and then at the same token they'll kind of be invested in our journey because they're helping us. You know what I mean? We're all kind of in it together, and that's really what happened. It's like as grassroots as you can say. Like it was the same thing with Terrifier. It's like people who believe in what you're doing, they enjoy what you're doing, they see the honesty behind it, the truth behind it, the passion. They're just as excited as you are, and they want to help. And that's
Yeah.
what's incredible about our fan base. Like they're so amazing, and like that's why we don't want to let them down. Like we truly like have discussions about like this got to be delivering the goods. It's got to be something cool. Like we can't half-ass this, because if we let them down, you know what I mean? That's like letting down the people that have been supporting us and then like putting us up. So,
Right.
it's really, it's pressure, but it's also like good pressure, you know what I mean? And it's fun, it's challenging, and it's awesome. And, we're just very indebted to our fan base, love our fan base, and want to keep continuing delivering for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And with the horror fan base being what they are in the horror community, crowdfunding is, I'm gonna say it's the easiest thing to crowdfund for, but it's one of those things to where uh people love that they can be a part of the journey, man. I've seen there's films I've seen, like I don't have no idea who the writer director is. They've put something up there, man, and holy cow, they'll just almost get almost their whole budget in like
I
a
know.
month.
It's
Um,
it's cool. It's nice that like that's able to happen. You know what I mean? Like, and there's tons of projects I've thrown my support behind and given money to, and just because I think it's cool or I want to help them out, or I see the filmmaker and I'm like, this looks like a good dude, whatever. Let me throw something, and it's nice to give back and be a part of it. And like I said, Stream wasn't gonna be a crowdfunding film at first. It was and then COVID happened. And I'm glad in a way that we were able to go that route, because we met so many amazing people along the way. We got so many opportunities for people that wanted to break into the film industry. Like we offered, you know, people to come on set as production assistants, and they got to come and meet, Jeffrey Combs or whatever. And it was like so cool. And now they're off doing their own thing. So like that's really fun to see. And so it was a pleasure. It was a great experience. And, now, like I said, we're at the finish line with Stream. It's coming out in theaters, and I'm just stoked for people to finally be able to see it. We're premiering, I don't know if you saw this, we're premiering the theatrical trailer because there's only a teaser trailer that's out. And I'm very cautious about, I hate trailers that give spoilers and give the best stuff away. And, obviously you need something there to get people excited and see it. But I hate when they just go overkill. So, we had the teaser trailer out for a while, tried to hold back on things. Now we have the theatrical trailer coming out. And again, tried to hold back on some stuff. Don't want to give anything away, but I'm stoked for that. We drop it at Days of the Dead, an exclusive premiere event of the trailer that they're doing. And then eventually it'll come out to the public. But we're building up to that August 21st release date. And it's really exciting.
That's awesome, man. I seen you're going to be at Days of the Dead and Phil Falcone. Are you guys are you going to be speaking there? Are you going to be set up for like people to like interact with like people, do autographs and things like that?
The whole thing actually, which is awesome. They really they hooked us up, and we're going to be there as guests signing and Terrifier stuff, Stream stuff, whatever. And then they're going to bring us up at this event on July 6th, and we'll probably talk a little bit before, and then they're going to show the trailer. And then we may talk after, we may not. I'm not sure. That's up to them, but I'm down to do whatever. I'm just excited to see eyes on this for the first time, audience members, and get to see what they think of the trailer. And hopefully they're just as excited for the film as we are to have it come out. We got a great cast. I don't know how many of your viewers know about it, but we got Jeffrey Combs, Danielle Harris, Dee Wallace, Tony Todd.
Wow.
Tim Reed, Felissa Rose, Dave Sheridan, Mark Holton is a great friend of mine. He's from Leprechaun. He's Ozzy from the original Leprechaun.
Dude, that sounds so cool.
These were guys that I loved growing up. I told you, big fan of Leprechaun, and I went and says, I want to get Mark in this film, and he got what we were trying to do. And he was retired for many years, and he came to do it. Tim Reed from Stephen King's It. He doesn't do horror. He's kind of been away from the horror world. I showed him the script. He goes, Mike, I don't really do horror stuff. I was able to meet him because we produced the Pennywise doc, the original 1990s Stephen King's It miniseries. We produced a documentary that came out a few years ago for Screambox, and I met him and we just kind of hit it off. And I said, hey, I got this script. I got this character I think you'd be great for. He goes, Mike, I don't really do horror films, but because we hit it off, he goes, I'll read it. Called me back that night, and he's like, I'm in. I'm doing it. He goes, I think this is cool. I think it's fun. It's more of a modern kind of horror thing. It's got some action to it. He goes, I don't know what it is about it, but I'm in. So that was super cool. So we got an incredible cast of people. There's even some people we haven't even announced that's involved, and some really cool things. Obviously, Damien Leone does all the effects, all the special effects, so all the gore. The whole Terrifier team's behind it. That was part of 2 and 3. David Howard Thornton's in the movie. He plays one of the killers. So we kept it in the family. We kept it with our core group of people. Paul Wiley, who did Terrifier scores, doing this score. So I mean, it's from like the top tier guys of Terrifier to like the lower end of people. Like we across the board, we kept the whole family intact, and that's one thing I'm really proud of. And it was just like just going to play in the sandbox.
That's awesome, man. I mean, you said it from the beginning. It's about keeping a good team around you, and you've seen that this family is so strong, and what you guys have done is worked greatly. So, yeah, keep the train going, man. And it's an awesome train, dude. Like you guys, you're tying I can see the kind of projects that you're doing and tying your name to, and I'm like, you make a lot of great decisions, man. I mean, I know you said that I said a Scream. Oh my God, Scream. 2015, the script was sitting around. When you were bringing that back into play, was it still everything you wanted it to be, or were there a lot of like revamptations right there towards it?
Sure. I mean, there for sure. Like even before Terrifier World, it wasn't as graphic as the movie ended up being. You learn too. Like I wasn't a gore guy growing up. I appreciate it now more than ever, and I see the art form in it, and I love it now. But Damien actually taught me that world. You know what I mean? Like Halloween is not really that gory, right? That was
right
what I grew up with, and he was more of the Friday the 13th world, where it was the Tom Savini, right? And so it wasn't as graphic. And then after doing Terrifier, and then I said, oh, we got to up the kills. We got to make this cool. And then obviously having Damien come on board, his mind just goes. And so like, that was something that got revamped. And then you learn, you have a script and it goes through drafts. And, there was an earlier script That's still pretty cool. And then, kind of evolved over the years. We'd go back to it. We'd go back to it. And then even as you're shooting it, it changes. The movie you write, the movie you shoot, the movie you edit, the movie that's released. They're all different movies, even though it's the same movie. So yeah, and it got into a place. And then even over editing, over the span of us editing the film, I went back and changed some stuff and added some stuff, because now we've come off shooting Terrifier 2 and, Terrifier 3. So like, that's why I'm super stoked that if this thing hits in the way that I hope that it can, because, we want to deliver new and fun content, indie films to the genre, and to the fan base. If it hits the way I hope it can, and people really enjoy it, because it's up to you guys to decide that, not me. Then we'll do another one, and we have some awesome.
There'll be a part 2.
Great. We got some great things that I want to do, and hopefully it can do that, and I'm excited. I'm really, really excited about it. But I also want people to know this isn't Terrifier. It's another thing. We want to show people that we can do other, slasher type films. It's a much different story. It's much more modern. There's 4 killers in the film as opposed to one Art the Clown. The concept is deals with the internet and technology and cryptocurrency and the dark web, and there's a lot of layers that we did with this one, and I'm proud of it, and I know everybody involved is super proud of it. So I'm just excited to see what everyone thinks.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It does look good. I love the whole premise of the whole thing. When I seen the dark web was involved in there, I'm like, man, this is such a thing. I've been surprised for a while. People haven't been trying to capitalize more. YouTubers do it, but
they don't. The films don't. And like I said, we have other. We have other stories for this, hopefully franchise, if it happens, where I'm going to explore it even more and really dive down that rabbit hole. And it's like, we set up the world now, and if people kind of get what we're doing and enjoy it, then hopefully we'll get another one. And again, it's just another horror film that, you can be excited about. Like, look, I'll be the first one to say I love when I hear Halloween 19's coming out, or I'm not one of those guys that are like, oh, they're making so many, they need to stop. Like, I'm like, no, let's go. I'm in. I'm gonna go see it. I love it. I love Michael Myers on the big screen. Do I think they're all great? No, they're not all great. They all have, some of them have their flaws or whatever. But if we can also have newer franchises like Terrifier, like Stream, like In a Violent Nature, whatever, the honey whatever, the Blood and Honey, I'm all for that, because that's just new things that we can get excited about while still having our old school horror. You know what I mean? You can live in a world with both, and some people seem to forget that. Yeah. We're working on Screamboat. I don't know if you know about that. The Mickey Mouse.
I was going to ask you about that when I was talking about how you select what you're going to do and what you're putting together or jumping behind producing. I noticed that you tied your name to Screamboat. You jumped on board the boat with that one. So what's up with that?
Funny, I'm not a huge public domain horror guy at all. I will say that. I think if done right, they could be cool. And this one, I think, is being done right. And my buddy, again, I'm a loyal guy. My buddy is the one who made the mean one. I went to high school with him, and that's Steven? That. I went to high school with Steve Lamort, who did the mean.
Yeah, I love the mean one. I thought it was good. I interviewed Steve. We talked about I thought it was still called Steamboat early on, but I seen he changed it to Screamboat, I believe, and is running with that.
Yes. So now it's Screamboat. And I went to high school with Steve, and we remained in touch, and we were actually how he got David for the mean one, because obviously we're with Terrifier, and so we got him David, and that thing was supposed to be this little thing, and it popped and exploded. And he kind of wanted to get more into he's a visual effects guy, and he wanted to get more into like the practical world and things. And we says, we've been trying to find a project to work together on. And, we have Terrifier, and he has that mean one. And says, you know what, this project, Screamboat, sounds like it could be fun. And so it's a horror film, but it's a horror comedy, which I thought was important because of the subject matter. It's Mickey Mouse. It's a mouse. It's a small mouse, whatever. I think there's a lot of things we can capitalize on it. So that's why behind it, obviously, besides him. And there's a lot of fun that can happen with that, and satire, and so I'm excited about it. And it's got a cool premise, and it's very home base oriented. I'm from Staten Island, New York. He's from Staten Island, New York. So there's a lot of true Staten Island references and things. And I don't know how much I can say, so that's why I'm kind of like beating around the bush with it. but it's we announced Dave is a part of it, right? Yeah. So
Yeah, yep. That's right. I talked about it a few videos ago, I believe. I was like, guys, Dave's playing Screamboat. So
he and I have a small part in the film, which is cool, and it's a fun movie. It's one of those movies where it's fun, it's
Mhm.
entertaining. There's going to be a ride. There's some humor to it, but then there's like crazy gore, and it's not meant to be taken seriously at all. But the characters in the situation take it seriously. So it's different, and it's something that I think will go. And that one has a theatrical release as well in early 2025. So.
See, that's what I'm saying here, man. Nowadays it's changed to where early on, I mean, what have we seen of Screamboat Willie for it to have a theatrical release? I'm tickled to death for that. That gives me hope. I've seen nothing but a poster and the idea of it, and it's got a theatrical release. That is freaking huge.
Huge. I've never look, I've never been a part of theatrical release, right? Until Terrifier 2. And then I'm like, now we have a movie that got a theatrical release before it was shot. And it was just like, which is awesome too, because like it shows that the industry is changing. There's hope for independent films. It also shows people are seeing the kind of quality products that we're putting out, with our names attached and things, and they're like, okay, we trust them now as
Yep.
filmmakers, and that's super cool, and that's like humbling beyond belief. And that's something that I'm super proud of. So it's just another project that we're bringing to the table and coming out, and it's something also that's different. I don't like doing anything that's too similar. Like I'll tell you, I'll be the first one. Terrifier, Stream, and Screamboat. They're three totally different movies, and I'm a part of all three of them. And that's what I think is super cool too. Is that if you don't necessarily like this one, you might like this one. You know what I mean? Or you might like all of them. You know what I mean? Because there's something in there for everybody, and I'm very selective in what I do, more so selective now than I once was. I used to say yes to everything because, you want to work, you want to be a part of it. Nowadays, it's getting tougher, but that's mostly because you want to be a part of good projects. You want to see if you're able to bring something to those projects as well. And also, like you said, it takes time. So you want to invest in the things that you're excited about and that, that you can spend your time on, and because you live with it for a while. So.
Yeah, no, definitely, man, and that's what I was saying. Like a few different things. Like I see the kind of stuff that you're putting out, and then also now I as a fan, as a supporter, as a fellow filmmaker, I'm like, there's a certain caliber I know he's going to put his name on, and he's going to bring, and there is I can see that trust there without being in the same room in the same conversations you've had. I can definitely see why somebody would say, this sounds good. You're getting a theatrical release. You know what I'm saying? And that's awesome, dude. I mean, eh, I hear horror comedy a few times in this interview. You love horror comedy.
I do. I was a big fan of you ever see 2001 Maniacs with Robert England, Lynn Shay? If you haven't seen,
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
I have it on DVD.
crazy movie. Like I love that film. It's not a good movie at all. It's a B movie. It's entertaining. Like I said, I love comedy. I love horror. So when I get to fuse them together, that's really super exciting. And there was a movie called Nothing But Trouble with Dan
Mhm.
Aykroyd. It's another movie that bombed at the box office, but it was a movie that now has a cult following. But that was another movie I loved growing up. So if I could put my two loves together, there's a beat, there's beats to a scare, there's beats to a joke,
Mhm.
and even though they're two different genres, I think that they both have the same kind of way you write it and you formulate it. And, it's like a roller coaster of emotions. So I enjoy when I can to do the horror comedies, but Terrifier in a way is a horror movie with comedy in it.
I was gonna say that, like,
Comedy.
even if you wouldn't like consider the jokingness and the way his gestures and body language and his quirkiness is, I've heard Damien say in interviews before, the quirkiness is the perfect way to put it. It does feel very comedy in a way, but then it never strays from the sadisticness.
Right. And that's kind of what I think also makes it, because like this Art the clown is totally just enjoying what he's doing, and it's so sadistic, and he just loves every minute. And that's what made he's a psycho. He's crazy. He's absolutely out of his mind. And like Scream, it's not a comedy at all. It's more of a horror action film, if anything, a thriller. There's some light moments in there that we throw in because I think that you need to break the tension, and there's things like that. We have Danny Roebucks in the film. He's an incredible actor, a good friend. He did a movie. I met him on a movie that I did called Penance Lane. I was a producer on it. I was in the movie. I played Scout Taylor Compton's boyfriend. Danny was in the film. Tyler Main made the film. He was the lead, and he also like was a producer on it. So we met Danny over like 15 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever, maybe 15 at this point, doing that film. And then we just hit it off. And now Danny, for anybody who doesn't know him, he was in Rob Zombie. He's in all Rob Zombie stuff, but he was just in the Munsters. He played Grandpa Munster. He's also in Terrifier 3. He's in Stream. So he's really a cool dude, and somebody that's a lot of fun. He's very naturally funny. So you can't help but put him in a role to where he can be a little humorous and break that tension in a good horror film.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. One question I wonder even myself, even though I've watched a lot of interviews and stuff, and done my homework, and like I said, I'm a fan too. But how did the whole thing come about that you guys all stepped into the Terrifier pot together?
Yeah, Phil Falcone, actually, believe it or not. So what's funny is most people don't know. So before, you remember those clown sightings that were happening over the country? We started those.
Yes.
So,
wait. The viral stuff on YouTube?
So we did this. We did the Staten Island clown back in 2013 or 2014. And we were putting clowns out, and then it kind of took from there. And then people took the idea and they ran with it, and they were doing weapons and chasing people. We never did those. But we did the ones where the clowns were out in the middle of nowhere with a balloon waving. And so we just did that for fun. And it was like, hey, we want to change the narrative of the news and the cycle of what's going on. We said we can make a splash. We can do something fun. We could do something cool. And we can kind of control the news. It was kind of like a social experiment, like the world is our film. And, anyway. And so we did that. And then it was in promotion to try to get known to make Abnormal Attraction. And we do Abnormal Attraction, and this guy Jason Milstein, who is involved in the Terrifier franchise as well, and he was doing the sound for us on Abnormal Attraction. He was friends with this producer, this guy Phil Falcone, and Phil came by the Normal Attraction set, and he's looking, he's really impressed, and he invites us to come on his set of his movie called Joe's War, and he's the director of that film with Tom Sizemore, and so we help him do that film. And his son is telling me about this movie that his dad is going to go into production on. And he goes, have you ever heard of All Hallows Eve? And I said, no, I've never heard of it. He goes, oh, it's a short film. It's got like a little fan base, Art the Clown, and the filmmakers from Staten Island also, because we're from Staten Island. Damien's from Staten Island. And so he shows me a picture of the clown. I said, wow. I said, that's freaking awesome. I said, there's something here. I remember saying, so there's something here with this clown that is so captivating. And anyway, so we hit it off with Phil, and he goes, I want to, bring you guys on with this new thing that I'm doing. And originally we came on as actors, and I came on as Will the Exterminator. And I was originally cast actually as the cop. And then what happened was Damien was like, oh, I think you'd be better for this other role. The only thing is you're not gonna live, you're gonna die. And I said, well, if you're in a horror movie, if you don't die, you're really in a horror movie. So he's like, yeah, but it'll be cool. And so I was like, I'm in, I'm ready to go. So we did the decapitation. So I said, well, if you want somebody with similar acting abilities that I was bringing to the role, I said, my brother would love to do it. Dave says, yeah, fine. He's in. Great. So it was like, just, you want to be in the movie? Okay. It was like that. It was making a movie in your backyard with your friends. And we all kind of got close, and we did a lot of behind the scenes with them. We did some sound stuff with them, beat camera stuff, and then Terrifier explodes somehow. And I remember being at a convention. I was at the Halloween 40 convention. I think it just got to Netflix right before, and I was seeing Terrifier merch, and I was getting recognized. Said, are you in that movie Terrifier? Are you in that movie Terrifier? And I'm going, oh. I call up Damien. I says, Damien, I said, people know this movie. Like they're excited. He's like, what? I said, dude, I just signed like 3 Terrifier things at a Halloween convention. I was like, you got to see this. I wish you were here. Like, who knew where it was going to go? And then it grew and it grew and it got bigger and bigger. And then it came time to do Terrifier 2. And we became so close at that point, such a family unit. Damien's like, I want you guys to come on board and produce it with us. And I was like, yeah, look, I'm dead. So, I got to be a part of this somehow and stay involved. And, Fuzz and the Lens came on board, and, we came on as producers with Terrifier 2 in a much bigger capacity. I was the assistant director, and then obviously that did what it did. And then steamrolled into stream stuff, and then Damien came on board with us with that, and again keeping it in the family, and then we went into Terrifier 3. So it's like, these people are not just, associates that you work with. They've really become family. Like Damien's like a brother to me. Phil, the same thing. It's, we talk to each other all the time. We're in group chats, we're in private chats. We go out, we go out drinking. We, go to conventions together. Like, we go to each other's house. We go swimming, with the pool. We go on vacation. Like we went on my brother's bachelor party. We were all there. So like we really became family, and we became family quickly. And it's funny because we're all from we're all from Staten Island, New York.
I was gonna say, isn't that crazy? You guys are all from Staten, and this thing has just worked the way that it is.
We never knew each other before it, and it was like even George Stuber, the cinematographer, lives like 5 minutes from my house. You know what I mean? I never knew him until we got involved with Terrifier, so that was really cool. And we kind of understood each other, I guess, too, from having the same background growing up. You know what I mean? So we just hit it off immediately from the beginning. It all stems from that moment on Abnormal Attraction where Phil came down and was like, hey, this is cool. I'm working on this movie. I don't know. It's a horror thing. I'm just doing it for these special effects, to learn special effects. You guys want to come on?
Wow. And turned into this huge monster. For Terrifier 3, man, how are the vibes? What can people expect? Obviously, we haven't even seen a trailer yet. Do you think a trailer's coming soon?
I think so. I can't see how it's not. I don't have any idea when a trailer is coming because I know Damien is feverishly working on the film. It's coming out October 11th. So this is a fast turnaround. This is like the fastest turnaround we've ever had to do. I mean, we just shot pickups like last week, and
Wow.
like it's crazy. So he's working on it. I'm assuming there'll be a trailer, in the imminent future, because how could there not? The movie's coming out in October, so there'll
Right.
be.
It's getting close, man. We got the notifications on. We're watching, panicking day by day. Where is it at, man? I would assume that it's gonna come within the next month or so.
It was we hit the ground running, just like nothing. No time had passed, and that's because no time has passed. Like I said, Terrifier 2 happened. We're still seeing each other and hanging out, and then we just go, tomorrow Terrifier 3. It was different in a way though, where the stakes are bigger. Obviously,
A lot of money I heard went into this one.
the money's bigger. And again, though, you have more money, you just got more problems. And and it went fast because again, we're going bigger with it. Damien, the kills in this movie are crazy. It's like, to me, every scene in the movie is the bedroom scene. It's like every scene.
Whoa.
Absolutely crazy. And like they just get bigger and bigger and more bizarre. And it's like there's a specific scene that we shot, obviously, that's like our hacksaw scene, our bedroom scene. It's like this is supposed to be that scene. I don't even know if audiences are going to know that's the scene because they're all so freaking crazy. And there's one kill in particular that I think is going to be the sleeper. And Damien, I think, feels the same way. There's one that you read it on the page and it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. But then you see it actually happen and you're like, oh shit, this is disturbing. This is mean-spirited. This is uncomfortable and uneasy to watch. So I think that one's going to get some buzz and cause some controversy. But it was again, the vibes on set were awesome. Much more people. Like the second movie, there was like 9 of us that made that movie. The first movie, it was like 5 of us. And then this one, it's like a lot more. So like that was interesting to like welcome new people into the family, and we gelled. It was great. We had the right people making this film with us. Christian Tinsley and his team, Ryan and Heather, they did all the effects this time around. It wasn't Damien and Phil, but they were obviously supervising. It was funny. I kept taking my phone out every time I saw Damien have to jump in and put blood and do whatever. I'm like, he can't stop. He can't stop. He can't let it go. It's like, dude, stop. He just couldn't be fully hands off, which is awesome. I mean, that's his passion. That's his love about it. But I'm really excited to see, what people think. I think making it a Christmas movie, I remember talking about it with Damien. He came up with this idea while we were shooting 2. Because we were shooting Terrifier 2 during Christmas. Like we were shooting it for a long time. We were shooting it during Halloween, then we were shooting it during Thanksgiving, then we were shooting it during Christmas, then we were shooting it during Easter. And it was like the movie was never ending. But I remember like having to take down Christmas trees and cover up, and it just looked so great on camera. We're like, it was really awesome. It was a Christmas movie. We could leave it up. And I just watched his wheels turn. And then sure enough, here we are. We made a Terrifier 3 Christmas movie. And
Wow.
It's super cool. It's very, it's much more scary, I think. The lighting, the way the lighting is for this one is really cool. It's kind of back to like that old school Black Christmas or Nightmare on Elm Street Part One, Halloween 1978 with pockets of darkness and pockets of lights. And so I'm really excited to see we went a lot darker with it this time around.
I
Um,
love that. I'm a huge fan of lighting, dude. It's and when you're talking lighting, and then once you're already a filmmaker and you know how it all works, and you can see color grading with the lighting that you got, that's where it's like, oh man, this is gonna be a bad boy.
Excited for it. And the lenses we shot on the Panavision. You know what I mean? Like,
I
yeah,
seen that. I don't know why everybody was so shocked about it. A lot of people were shocked about that. I've had people I've done on the podcast before, like, did you see they were using the Panda? Like, how did that come about?
Damien had a look from the beginning that he wanted to do, and he had a bunch of films that he wanted to have the same kind of color palettes and lenses and tones, and it was all Panavision. He goes, "This is what I want," and he got it. He got what he wanted, and it was interesting because that's a whole new thing for us. None of us have ever before. So that was like a learning curve, and now I'm excited for it. Like I said, we have a slate of good movies coming out. I think they're good. Again, it's up to you guys to judge that, but with Stream, Terrifier 3, and then eventually Screamboat, that I'm really anxious to see what our fan base, what the horror fan base thinks of them. I could promise you blood, sweat, and tears were poured into all of them. And just working on Terrifier 3 again was one of the highlights of my life. And just to be by Damien's side again, and have input and, be involved and, get to see this bad boy grow and expand. I'm excited that Jason Patrick was finally announced. That was cool. So we got some really great people involved in this as well that we've idolized growing up too. So it's nice to go bigger and badder and bolder with it.
And it's crazy, man. I mean, we mentioned Steven earlier in his film The Mean One, but there's been a lot of people take a stab at a Christmas horror movie. There's a lot of them out there, but I know this is going to be the one, bro. I've watched a lot of them, and I do appreciate them. I like them. I thought The Mean One was good, but this one's going to hit different. I know it is.
And it's cool that, like, what I like about it is it's already established as a thing, right? Terrifier is a thing, and it was on Halloween. It was like a regular horror thing. So I kind of like. I don't know if I've ever seen, and I could be wrong. I don't know if I've ever seen like taking Freddy and putting him in a Christmas movie, or Michael Myers and putting him in a Christmas. You know what I mean? Like it was set as not a Christmas film, whereas all these other ones were Christmas, like Black Christmas. It was a Christmas horror. The Mean One, it's a Christmas horror. There's one, and this was established as something else, and it was very ballsy by Damien to say, you know what, I'm going to take Art now out of his element, throw him into something different. I think it was genius, and I think that because I was just like, wow. And I think it was super cool that we did that, and it's ballsy as all hell, but I think it worked. I really do think it worked, and seeing it, and being there and being a part of it, I think it worked. And I'm just excited to see what people think about it because it was daring, but he knows what he's doing, and it's an honor to watch that man, create.
Do you anticipate Terrifier 3 staying in the movie theaters for quite a while?
I do. I do. I think I don't know how many theaters we have, but it's a much bigger release than like it's like the release is probably even bigger than what 2's release ended at. Obviously, because now everybody knows about it and things. So I'm expecting it to stay in theaters for a while, and I'm expecting it to I don't know if it's going to expand. I don't know if it can expand. I don't know how that works, that whole thing. You know what I mean? Like we had a lot of room to expand when like you weren't in that many theaters and it was only for a few days. This one is much more theaters and a lot more days. I just don't know. Obviously, you could extend the run. I just don't know how the theaters are. If there's like we have all of them, I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, no, I see it like the the hits that stay on Billboard for a while. This is like we know it's going to be a hit before it comes out, just because of how massive that fan base is and how dude they are so locked in. Like there's not a lot like it. Like we have seen. I was locked in with Hatchet, dude. I still am locked in with Hatchet. A big Hatchet fan. But there's been things that people have been locked in with, but it doesn't happen where the iconic character stays in the light too often for a long amount of time. I mean, there's literally a Mount Rushmore of maybe it's a little expanded now because art's on there, but there's a certain amount of people that are that iconic that where it's just like if it has a movie, it's going to do good.
Right, right. Yeah, no. I mean, like it's again, it's so hard to even say this, but what I'm seeing with Art the Clown now is it's very similar to how it was with Robert Englund and Freddie. And he was in like we did the Bupka show with Pete Davidson, like he's entering more pop culture kind of stuff. Freddie was doing that. Freddie was going to England and Europe and all these things. It's just like, but what's crazy about it, and again, this is the age of the internet, I guess, is with Terrifier, somehow it happened much quicker for David, and it just popped. Like I don't know why. I can't answer why or how, or it just did. Whereas like Nightmare, hearing Robert talk about it, it was more of like by like part 3 or 4, it started happening. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a fast like Terrifier 1. People liked it, people enjoyed it, it got there, but then 2, it was the second movie and it went. So that's kind of interesting to be a part of, and I don't know why. If we knew why, we'd be able to replicate it over and over again, right?
We would replicate the shit out of that. We we do it nonstop.
Like lightning in a bottle too. And again, the only thing that I can say is a constant between at least anything I'm doing and a part of is just that passion and that truthfulness of like pouring your heart and soul into it and trying to make it the best it possibly can be in that moment. You know what I mean? And doing everything you can. Whether it's the right decision, the wrong decision, that'll be told over time. You'll figure that out. But I think that's the only way to be consistent is just do the best you can in the moment, make the right decisions, and just try not to phone it in and be genuine about it. And then from there, it's just at least you can go back and say at the given time, I did everything I could with whatever I had, and I made it happen. And that's how you can be proud of something, regardless whether it's a success or a failure.
Absolutely agree, man, and so happy that you reiterate this, man. This is something I try and preach often too, and we just I love it, dude. It makes me even more of a fan now, and I'm super happy to see where this thing is going. And this is the same thing with all of you guys, man. I've noticed, I haven't got to ever speak to Damien, but just speaking to Phil, speaking to you, seeing the fan base and how you guys are accessible. It hasn't got that whole studio vibe, man, where I don't think you guys ever will, because like, you can sense like, yeah, we're doing something great. We know what we bring to the table, but we're still humble, man. We still love this. I think that's it, man. When people lose the love for it and it's just money, you see it, bro. It's so obvious where
it gets corporate. It gets so corporate, and we're definitely not corporate guys. Like I said, still shocked, when you say the movie's in theaters. Like that's to me is crazy. Like, so cool. And I'm so just happy that I'm honored that that's happening. Like just to see something in the theaters, or like that people care, that people are talking about what we're doing, and sharing it and discussing it. It's like, that's just amazing.
How has a lot of the film studios, since you've seen the success, started like hitting your emails, man, like phoning in and trying to be like, hey, look, we want a piece of your pie, whatever you're cooking?
Yeah, especially when Terrifier 2 just started hitting, there was a lot of phone calls of people saying, how did you do this? People that would never answer our calls ever, by the way, before this. And then they were like, hey, and what's up? And now we're on their radar, especially for Damien, obviously, like being the creator and the director. He was getting phone calls left and right and meetings and flown out and going to Universal and going here and going everywhere. It was cool to follow along what was going on. And people wanted Terrifier. But there were so many red tape about what we can do and what we can't do. And I'll give Damien and Phil all the credit in the world. They says, you know what? No, we're gonna turn down these opportunities and offers. We're gonna make this film the way we want, at least this one. You know what I mean? Like there might be other opportunities for him to do a big studio project. And I would love to see Damien, and do something else that's not Terrifier. And I know he's got great ideas, and he's a great director. He's a really good, talented filmmaker. So that's going to come, and that's exciting. But I was happy that he stayed true, again, loyal to our fan base, loyal to the subject matter, and he really wanted to make sure that we stayed that way for the people that got us here, and and we didn't sell out, and that's something I'm proud to be a part of. And you'll see that in Terrifier 3. We're breaking through, and we're going to do it the way we want to do it. And no prisoners.
That's awesome, man. No, I love it, dude. And listen, if you ever get the opportunity to touch a Leprechaun film,
It's funny. I would be honest. I just met with the director of the guy who's making the new Leprechaun, and I messaged him on about a year ago. I met as soon as it came out. Really great guy. I messaged him on Instagram, and I said, "Dude, I just gotta. If you're ever in New York, I gotta meet with you. I gotta sit down with you." I said, "This is so cool that you're getting to do this, and I'm such a big fan. I'd love to be involved any which way." And he goes, "Actually, I'm going to be in New York next week, so we got to get together and talk, which
wow.
pretty cool. And I'm so excited to see what he's doing with that. And I'm still, if you're watching this, I'm still wanting to be a part of that. But he's been so supportive too of everything with Terrifier, and so that's also kind of what's cool that comes out of Terrifier. Your voice can get through a little further than than once before. And again, that's just every day. You just stay true to what you're doing. You just keep working hard, and eventually you go up that rung and you go up that ladder. But I'm still the same guy that was making movies with my mom's video camera, pulling the credits with the typed out pieces of paper.
Dude, that's the coolest thing in the world, bro. I'm still tripping over that.
I'm gonna put it in a movie one day when it makes sense. I'm gonna actually do the credits like that for real one day. I gotta figure out.
Do it.
Yeah.
Especially in a horror comedy. I mean, there's just so many places you can take that. But I do hope to see something like that, man. Anytime there's somebody that inspires me, and I look at their film style, there's usually when they talk, like for Damien, I would say I hope he does a Friday the 13th movie. When I talk to you now, knowing you're Leprechaun, I'm a huge Leprechaun fan. Like, I don't think there's enough Leprechaun fans, but I think that it takes a new creative mind to say, hey, let me just hold this torch for a minute and let me show you what I can do. And after seeing your style, I can see that.
Yeah, I'd be honored. And there's a few. I know Damien would love to do a Friday the 13th for sure.
Yeah.
Like for me, Leprechaun, or even a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Halloween, any one of those. I'm excited to see what they're doing with that Halloween TV series.
Me too.
Super stoked. I was just talking to I was out at Monster Palooza in Pasadena last week, and I saw he came by, which was so cool. Ryan Freeman, he's part of Trancas, and we were talking about the franchise and what's going on with that and what they're doing, and I'm stoked. And then I keep saying, hey, there's still us. We're here. But yeah, so I'm just a fan. I'm just a fan. I'm excited for everything that's coming down the pike in the horror world, and just try to eat up anything new I could find.
Well, I'm excited too, man. And I appreciate you coming on here, dude. You dropped so much great knowledge and inspiration, and let us know about some good things cooking. Can you tell people, man, where they can find you on social media, and once again, just plug anything you would like?
Sure. Best way to find me is through my company, Fuzz on the Lens Productions, at Fuzz on the Lens on everything. My personal one is Levis Island. And if that's hard to remember, Fuzz on the Lens, that's the simple one. And then there's also at Stream Franchise, and use the hashtag join the stream for any of the updates. Stream hits theaters August 21st, and be on the lookout in the next few weeks for the theatrical trailer and pre-sales for the film. Again, this is kind of like the Terrifier 2 method. If enough people go and see it in the theaters, it'll expand, and that's good for us. That's good for indie horror. That's good for indie filmmaking and filmmakers in general. So we'd be honored if you guys can come out, support it, and see it. And I would love to hear what you think. If you love it, let us know. If you don't like it, let us know that as well. Because that only helps us grow as filmmakers. And just know that we're working hard to deliver the goods and bring really fun, new, exciting, gory, entertaining horror flicks to the big screen.
I love it. You had me at gore. And I love the way you're marketing this thing too, man. The mask was such a huge thing. When I seen that shit, I was like, dude, I love it. I think that nowadays, like, that's the next step, is how are you packaging this? Because a lot of people are saying that like DVDs are dying out. I don't believe in that. I believe for the horror community, they are not dying out.
They're not. VHSs are even hot in the horror world. The horror world is about collecting. Dude, Blu-rays, DVDs, VHSs. We're doing that with Stream as well, because you have to. I mean, it's just, I love them. I collect them. I have them. I know I see a bunch behind you there.
Same. Yeah.
So I mean, it's for the horror world. It's 100% not dying out. And you know, it's if we just keep getting them and buying them and showing up, then they'll keep making them.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. No, I'm so stoked. I've yet to get a Terrifier on VHS, but I seen that was available, and I'm picking that up because I tell you what, dude, there's just nothing like picking up, watching your favorite horror films on VHS. There's a film look to it, which sounds like we're gonna get it, man, with the Panavision. Like that's gonna have a look
And
that's just gonna be crazy.
excited to see how it looks when it's all together, because it's one thing obviously when you're looking at it on the monitor, and then there's another when it's colored and it's, you know, set in the way, you know, the way it's meant to be delivered. So I'm excited to see the look for sure come to life, and it's unique, you know, being there in person and seeing it. It was really fun and really magical to be shooting Panavision. I don't know if I had my here. Hold on, look at this. This is the crew hats. These were the crew hats for Terrifier 3. These were the hats, and in the back, which is super cool. Panavision.
Oh my god, that is so gnarly. Wow. Dude,
So
that is cool, man. Thanks for showing that, bro.
welcome, man. It was awesome.
That is awesome, dude. We'll stay on here just for a second. Guys, go down the rabbit hole. Look up this gentleman. Check out Fuzz on the Lens. I follow him on Instagram. You guys know I don't follow a lot of people, but if you follow me, look who I follow. He's in there, and man, everything that they're doing, I am a fan of. I've gotten to that point now where if I'm a super fan of somebody, I just anything they do, I just support, and I'm never let down either. Because you just know, like, love and passion makes the best projects, and everybody I'm a fan of, you can tell they like making movies. And I've seen a lot of people, man. This is the love is gone out of filmmaking, and with so many people, it's just like, hey, let's base more bills. And so, yeah, definitely check this guy out. Leave him some love in the comments section. Terrifier 3 trailer. I know it's coming soon. Keep your eyes open for that. We'll definitely watch Stream. Look out for that theatrical trailer. Super stoked for that film, man. Such a unique concept. When I first seen it, I was like, holy shit, this is something new. This is going to be good. And the fact that Damien's doing some stuff on it, come on, bro. It's going to be crazy. But smash that thumbs up, comment below, share this on social media. Love you guys so much. Post every week right here on the Scream Scene. But until next time, sweet nightmares.